If you've ever thought about making soy-free tofu at home but thought the process was too complicated, well, I've got a beginner's recipe that only requires 2 ingredients, and I can even show you how to make it with tools you probably already have in your kitchen right now. You can't beat that. And today, I'm going to show you how to make your own. All right, so let's talk about what we're going to use to make this simple soy-free tofu. Usually I'm going over several ingredients, but this one is very straightforward, very simple. All we need to make this are pumpkin seeds. These are pumpkin seeds that I soaked overnight. Now, why use pumpkin seeds to make the soy-free tofu? Well, first of all, some people try to avoid soy. Now, personally, I am in favor of organic soybeans, and I do use them, but I don't like any processed soy. And so for those who are in that camp, this is a great way to still have tofu without using soy. Also, pumpkin seeds are super health promoting. They're high in iron, high in zinc, high in protein. So you're using something that's health promoting to make this tofu substitute. Now, as far as what we're going to need to process these pumpkin seeds, we're going to need a high-speed blender, a high-powered blender. Now, if you have a Vitamix or a Ninja, that should suffice, or any high-powered blender should do the trick. Now, after we blend our pumpkin seeds and create our pumpkin milk, we're going to need to cook it and heat it. I'm going to show you the type of pot that you're going to need and the utensils. And another thing that make the pumpkin seeds a great choice is that when you're making your pumpkin seed milk, you need it to curdle. And typically to make, tofu, if you're using beans or other kind of seeds, you need to add something to make the milk curdle. And that's typically lemon juice or vinegar, or there are other options as well, gypsum and other things. But with the pumpkin seeds, what makes them very unique and very practical is that they curdle on their own, which is perfect. So that makes it easy. All right, so we're going to use our pumpkin seeds, our high-powered blender. I'm going to show you the other utensils, your options for pressing this, because after we get the milk to curdle, we got to press it. And you can do it using things you might already have in your kitchen. But if you want to make it super simple, or if you're going to be doing this regularly, there are about 3 different methods you can use to press it, ranging all the way from $15 up to $100. And as you go up the ladder, it makes things more simple. I'm going to show you all those options as we go. So let's start putting this together. All right, so let's talk about some different options we have for pressing our curds. Now, I have 4 different little setups here, and which one you choose should be based, in my opinion, on how often you're going to make it, how much money you want to spend, and how easy you want the process to be. So you can use everything from some things that you probably already have in your kitchen, or you could buy one of these and spend anywhere from $15 or $20 up to $100. Let's talk about the different methods. So if you have a colander and a big bowl, and most people do, you can press your curds by taking your colander and putting it into your bowl and then lining it with a cheesecloth. And then you would take your curds and pour them into the cheesecloth. We would wrap them up and then take a smaller bowl, and you could fill the bowl with water because weight is what you want. It's a pretty heavy bowl anyway, but put more water in, more weight. You would put it here, press down as much as you could, get the water to release, maybe drain it, put it back on there, and then put it in the fridge overnight and let the water exude into the bowl. So that's the most economical way to do it. Okay, and the second option is to use something like this, and this is just a tofu press. Now, this is made out of plastic, and that's the one negative about it. This works really well. You would put your cheesecloth in, just like we did here, line your cheesecloth, and then scoop your curds in. Once your curds are in, you'll take this and put it in. Now, this will press up and on top of the curds, and then you would just put it in, attach everything, and then spin here. And as you spin this, that lever starts to press down, the water exudes, you drain it, press it some more, put it in the fridge overnight. Now, the only problem with this, again, is that it's plastic, and when you put things that are hot into plastic, you can have some chemicals leaching, which is not a good thing. But if you're someone who's not concerned with that, then this is the most economical way, and it works really, really well. You can get this for about $15 to $18, usually under $20 for this, okay? Okay, so our third option, and this is what I'm going to be using today to do our pumpkin seeds, is this stainless steel press. Now, it has holes in the bottom for the water to exude from, and a tray. It comes with a tray. So you're going to place it here, again, line it with your cheesecloth, scoop your curds in. This time we're gonna put our lid on, and when we put our lid on, when it has a screw, we'll turn that screw. It'll push down much like this, but it's all stainless steel. I'll show you more when we do it because again, I'm gonna be using this one to do our pumpkin seed tofu today. So that is your third option, and this runs you about $25 to $30. Okay, so a little more expensive than this. The last option is this. This is a tofu press also. Pretty straightforward and easy. It comes with this really heavy weight. And again, we have at the bottom here, you have slits where the water can exude, and you have some on the side here. So line with cheesecloth, scoop in curds, weight, very heavy, put it on, and then you can even add some pressure by pressing on it yourself. Let that water exude out. Put a tray under this as well, just like I have a tray here. You would put this on a tray, okay? You're gonna press down on it, get rid of excess water, put it in the refrigerator overnight, and it's gonna sink and press, okay? So these are your 4 options. Now, the advantage with these 3 over just the colander and the bowl is that these are gonna produce nice, firm bricks of tofu, and they'll look nice and symmetrical. Here, that won't be the case. But again, you know, you probably have this in your home, so you're spending 0 money. But if you're gonna make tofu, you know, once a week or once every couple of weeks or often, then one of these may be the better option. So it's up to you what you use. Just wanted to show you what your options are. Again, today we're gonna be using this particular press. This is probably my favorite, but I do like this one as well. All right, let's move to our next step. Okay, so now I've rinsed and drained my pumpkin seeds, and I've gotten all the water out as best I can. Now I'm just gonna take my pumpkin seeds and put them into the blender, add the water. We're gonna blend it and create our pumpkin milk to go into our pot. Now, depending on the size of your blender, you may need to do this part in 2 batches. Another option is to start by blending with less water and mixing the remaining water after. Okay, so the next step is to get our pumpkin seed milk drained, and we're gonna do that by putting it in a nut milk bag and just squeezing it out and getting it nice and smooth. Now, this is a part of the process that takes a little effort. You're going to start by getting all of the blended pumpkin seeds into the nut milk bag and twist the top. Then it's time to squeeze until you can't get any more milk to strain. Okay, so now at this point, I've really drained most of the liquid that I can from the bag. I want to show you what the pulp looks like though when I'm done. So if you look here, the pulp is nice and dry, and it's soft, about like the texture of Play-Doh would be. And so this is the finished product with the pulp. Now, in the theme of zero waste, not wanting to waste anything, what I do when I have pulp like this is I'll save it and I'll put it mainly in my smoothies, but sometimes I'll put it in a soup or I might put it over salad, but mainly I'll use this to do smoothies. Now, in my juicing videos, I do have some recipes of using different kind of nut pulps, almond and you know, walnut and that kind of thing to make little bites and other different types of things like that. So you can check those videos out if you want more ideas of what to do with pulp. But typically with this is for smoothies for me. All right, let's talk about what we're left with here, our nut milk. So what we're gonna do now is set this aside for about 15 minutes, and we're setting it aside to let the starches settle. And when the starches settle, what that does is it removes it from the nut milk, and we end up with a firmer tofu. Now, if you're someone who likes a sulfur tofu, you can skip this step. You don't even have to let it just settle for 15 or 20 minutes. You can just take it and go to the next step. But we're gonna set it aside and let those starches settle and then go from there. Okay, so we're gonna let our pumpkin milk sit just a little bit longer. Then we're gonna start heating it. Once we heat it, there's a couple of tools that are really useful if you have them on hand. One is a flat edge spatula. Now I'm emphasizing that it has a flat edge because once we get our milk in here and we get it heated, one thing we wanna do is really baby it and really stir it a lot. And we wanna scrape the bottom of our pan to keep it from scorching and sticking. That's very important. And if you have a rounded spatula, it's a little harder to scrape it. I mean, you can make it happen, but ideally you would have a flat edge spatula, and as you're gonna see me do, you're gonna keep scraping and mixing as you go. Another good tool to have on hand, again, not absolutely imperative that you do, but it's handy, is what's called, we call this a skimmer. And so when the curds start to separate and form and it's time to remove them from the pot, this makes it easy to just skim them off and then let the excess water drain, and then you move your curds into your container. So these are two nice tools to have. Don't have to have them, but if you do, you want to make use of them in this process This should be done soon, and we're going to start heating our pumpkin milk.
Now, something that I wanted to mention is that I find it more effective to put the bowl in the fridge while the starches settle. Now, when pouring the milk into your pot, you want to take care not to mix the settled starches and stop before you've poured all of the milk to avoid pouring the starches into the pot. Now you want to heat your milk on high, continuously mixing and scraping the bottom of the pot to prevent scorching. And just before the milk starts to boil, you will notice it begin to curdle. Turn off the burner, but continue to mix it gently until the curds come together and the liquid is no longer opaque.
Okay, so now I've got my curds cooked to the point that I want them here. Now it's time to get our curds into our press and get them pressed really nicely. Now to do that, I'm going to take my cheesecloth here and I'm just going to line my press. And I've dampened this cloth, and when you dampen it, it makes it a lot easy for you to manipulate it and really get it to contour to the shape of the press here. So I've got it here and I'm just going to push it in like so.
Now I'm using my skimmer here to remove and drain the excess liquid from the curds before adding them to the tofu press. And once I finish getting all the curds into the press, I'm going to neatly fold my cheesecloth and add the top of my press. Now keep in mind that as you tighten the press, liquid will be draining into the tray and you'll need to empty it so it doesn't spill over. If you're enjoying this video, please like and subscribe below.
All right, so that's pretty much the last step in the process other than the waiting time. So I have my my curds here. I pressed it really well, got a lot of the liquid out as you see. I'm going to leave the tray underneath and I'm going to put this in the fridge overnight. And then tomorrow I'll break it out and we'll see what we have.
Now, to prevent any waste, the leftover liquid can be stored in the fridge or freezer and used in soups, smoothies, or even pancakes.
All right, good morning. So I've had the pumpkin seed tofu in the refrigerator overnight. Now I've taken it out and we're going to take it out of the press and see what the firmness is and see what it looks like. Let's do that now.
So another great thing about this pumpkin seed tofu is that you can use it any way that you would use regular tofu. Now my very favorite way to use it is by making vegan bacon, and I'll be sharing a recipe for that, so please stay tuned. Now again, this tofu is firm, but if you prefer a softer tofu, the best way to do that is to leave the starches in when you're pouring your liquid into the pot, and that will result in a nice soft tofu.
Okay, so you can see that it looks really good and the texture here is really firm, which is what I was going for. Of course, you could do a softer texture as I mentioned. You can see that as it sat overnight, there was still a little water, and I really pressed that really well before I put it in the fridge, and yet and still you get a little bit of water that exudes into your tray, which is appropriate. All right, now let's cut into it and see how it looks.
Now, because soybeans are so health promoting, I will be sharing a video of a minimally processed, clean soybean tofu in the future, so please stay tuned.
Okay, so as you can see, this looks great. Very firm block of tofu. Again, if you prefer it less firm or soft tofu, then you just wouldn't press it as much. And you can see on the outside how some of the starches settle on the top of the brick. And sometimes that happens, and then other times, and it could just be a variation in the seeds that I have, or cooking it a little longer or a little less, or pressing it. But sometimes you'll notice that this starch kind of settles on the outside of the block, sometimes not. But you can look inside and just see that this looks absolutely great. Has the right texture for sure if you're going for firm tofu, which is what I was going for with this pumpkin seed tofu. Now, I'm going to be using this for some recipes. I'll probably make some bacon or sandwiches or something like that. So keep your eye open for my shorts videos where you'll see me doing something with this pumpkin seed tofu. But the process, as you see, very simple. The only one I've ever done that doesn't need a coagulant, no lemon juice, none of that. And it comes out perfectly like this. And you got a nice, healthy, homemade version of pumpkin seed tofu without the chemicals, without the processing, without the worries. Can't go wrong when you make your own. All right, if you're new to my channel and you're wondering how to find the recipes, look below the video and tap on the word more and you'll see the beginning of the recipe. Tap on the word more a second time and you'll see the full recipe, and then you can begin to make your own. Thanks for watching.